podcast. Folks, if you haven't checked them out, make sure that you check out their podcast as well. You're going to enjoy it. They do a heck of a lot better job than we ever do.
Most definitely, brother.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
All right, we're up, bud.
You are listening to DND Dynamite 80s, as DC likes to say, the premier podcast.
The premier. We can say that because we're the only one in Nashville doing it. So we're the premier.
Yeah, you said D, so I don't know who A, B, and C are, but we're going to claim fourth place. We're D.
There we go. In a one-man race, yes.
Yeah.
We get fourth.
Hey, in a race of one, we're fourth. Man.
There you go. You got it, brother. All right, here we go.
Hi, this is Ivan from Men Without Hats, and you're listening live from Nashville to the D&D Dynamite 80s podcast with DC and DH.
Live from Nashville, Tennessee, you are listening to the D&D Dynamite 80s podcast with your hosts, DC and DH. So, guys, take it away. Take it away there, buddy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another episode of D&D Dynamite 80s. I'm DH.
I am DC.
And we're here to take another fantastic look at all things 80s. First off, DC, let me say, as you can see, I'm not in the studio.
I can tell you're not in the studio. I think you're in a different world. But I know you're on the road. You stay on the road.
I don't have any of my equipment tonight, so
I can tell. You don't have to tell anybody.
Hey, I went to the original OG like we used to on a cell phone.
Are you using the $5 microphone like we had?
Yeah, I don't even have it with me tonight.
All right. We are thrilled, man. We are thrilled to have with us. We've got Steve and T-Bone with us from the New Wave Music Podcast. Yeah, and you can see this on, they have all kinds of different platforms that you can watch their stuff on. I've been watching it on iHeart quite a bit, DH, as I put it on to you as well. And they do fantastic work. Gentlemen, how are you guys tonight?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing well.
Thank y'all for joining us. And DC, I'm going to give a plug here. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they've got 80 plus shows on iHeart, and I think I've watched most of them now.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
you guys do an amazing job.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Steve, I was going to say, Steve, what are we at? 80, 83, 84 episodes?
I think we're at 89.
Oh, that much?
Wow.
Okay, there you go.
I can't even keep it straight anymore.
Yes, we know that.
Yeah, we have that feeling as well. Yeah. Go ahead, DH. What you got?
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask was just kind of ask how your podcast came about, just to kind of see the origins of it.
Yeah, I'll turn that over to Steve. He's the one who created it, if you get right down to it.
Well, a few years ago, I guess 2019, before COVID, me and T-Bone were doing a panel at the local Comic-Con about the music from the John Hughes movies. So we call our panel, Don't You Forget About Me, the music from the John Hughes panel. Yeah. T-Bone was able to arrange an interview with OMD. We could talk about their hit, If You Leave. And when COVID kind of happened and everything kind of shut down, kind of had an idea, maybe we should start focusing on spotlighting some newer music that these bands from the 80s are still putting out. Because no one's really, unless you're following the band, you might not know that they have new material out or touring.
Yeah, a lot of times it's not getting put on the radio. And I mean, needless to say, 80 plus episodes later, we're talking about bands that I guarantee you people did not know are still putting out material, because we see them at concerts and such, and they're like, I didn't even know that Nick Kershaw was still putting out music. And yeah, so that was the genesis of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So just to follow up on that, one of the things I kind of found, and I really enjoyed when y'all were kind of playing the snippets of the music and talk about the new albums that they were releasing. Do you guys, and I kind of wondered this question hit me, do you guys kind of get an advance copy of that to listen to, or is it just kind of where you're following the bands?
Let's see, 89-ish episodes, probably about 2.
We understand that too. Yeah, we get that too.
We were lucky we got OMD's album about a month before it dropped, month and a half maybe before it dropped.
Yeah.
Okay.
House Staircase.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we had that a little bit early there, but yeah, for the most part, it's just stuff that we're buying as we find that it was released.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. I've got to ask this and you kind of touched on it when you started but deep down, this podcast thing, as we're starting year 4 with it, it's a lot of darn work to this stuff. I'm sure you guys have other jobs as well that you do. Has it been well worth it to you? That may be a stupid question, but I'm just curious. Or is it kind of that roller coaster feeling? Why in the hell am I doing this? Or yeah, it's worth doing this, or what?
Even before the podcast, me and T-Bone would chat music and what we thought of albums, and
we've known each other for years.
Decided why not put it on there. It's not really something we're making really any money on. It's more just for the love of the music we're doing.
Sure, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're sometimes now getting some preview albums or some concert tickets out of it, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and really those things are nice. Those little additional, items are nice. But really, it's just it's fun to do. We put a lot of work into notes and everything, and we don't talk to each other about the albums before we review them. We don't want to influence each other on what our thoughts are, and that's why Steve was so wrong on the new Modern English album.
Oh, wow.
It is genius.
DC has a lot of things he's wrong on too. So
I'm wrong a lot of the time. Probably about 99% of the time. So I can kind of fall in that boat too.
Yeah, we don't talk about it ahead of time. We like to keep it fresh as we record the episode. And it's we had a little moment there when I won't go into details about this. I don't want to embarrass Steve or myself, but that I was about ready to drop out of the podcast. But I'm glad I didn't. I really enjoyed. I know Steve does too.
Well, now we're getting to the point where we're
kind of have that.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Because now we're getting to the point where we've recorded an episode for album reviews, but we keep getting interviews. So we've pushed that one back, and I don't even remember what we talked about. So that one's going to be a brand new episode experience for me when it finally drops.
Yeah, I swear we recorded that episode, an album review episode, about a month ago, I think. And then we suddenly had all these interviews pop up, and that interview is just languishing, just sitting there waiting to be posted.
Oh, the interview thing, I'm curious about that. And Steve and I have already kind of talked a little bit back and forth a little bit about what I'm about to talk about. But it's very challenging when you want to try to focus in on a certain group of people that you're interested in trying to get an interview with, and your hopes get a little high. Like, okay, they're kind of under the radar now. This is kind of from my perspective. They're kind of under that radar now. This should be not so tough to do. And then it's like you never hear from them, or you hear from a guy that's in the management department that has no clue whether that guy or that gal would even do it. He just decides to make the choice like, well, no, you're not big enough. So now I think we're going to pass on this one. I get that kind of stuff if I do get some emails back. So it's a roller coaster. I don't know for you guys if that's kind of the case, but for us, that's kind of how it's been.
It started out really rough like that, where one manager originally we called the show "Don't You Forget About Me," the New Wave Music Podcast.
Right.
A couple press agents were saying, well, they don't really want to go on a show called "Don't You Forget About Me," so we dropped that. Now we just went with the New Wave Music Podcast.
Gotcha.
It's kind of funny because we've had correspondence with agents. They turn us down. Somehow I get in contact with the band directly through like Facebook or Instagram. They're like, yeah, I'd be happy to go on this. Told them
exactly.
Shut it down, and they're like, they don't know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
Or we were invited to a private concert by one of our listeners for a band. The guitarist is like, hey, I've got a solo album. Why aren't you guys reviewing it? Sure.
And we interviewed him.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, we started off. I mean, that original interview with Andy McCluskey and Paul Humphreys of OMD. That obviously was not intended for the podcast. That was for that Fan X panel that we did, and then I think, was it me that contacted Dr. Robert, Steve? Yeah, Dr. Robert of the Blow Monkeys. I just threw it out there, and next thing you know, that was our first legitimate interview.
Wow.
For the podcast, and then. Between Steve and myself, now I'm not on Facebook, so Steve kind of has turned into the de facto guy, the go-to guy on getting contacting these bands or these representatives and seeing if we can get an interview. I did a little bit more in the past, and every once in a while something pops up. But Steve's kind of turned into the guy.
Yeah,
and it's been, I mean, the more the better, but it's been very successful on getting interviews.
Yeah,
I've kind of been joking with T-Bone that this year it's been either sink or swim for interviews, and so far it's been swim like crazy. And we have potentially 2 other big interviews in the works. I have the feeling they're just going to drop it on us, like, "Hey, can you interview so and so tomorrow?" Which has happened. We've had a 2-hour window sometimes to prepare.
Wow, we hadn't been that lucky, but we've had response back where. Okay, he's got this set window. Can you do it? And I'm like, yeah, we can make it work. We'll make it work.
And you guys have interviewed him, actually. It was Jack Hughes of Wang Chung. And
very nice gentleman. Yeah, terrific gentleman.
I didn't have time to be on it. There's no way I could get on it.
Wow.
So, the notice was so short. So it was just a Steve effort. And I think he did a great job.
Yeah. DH, does that kind of sound familiar?
I was going to say,
I don't do Facebook, T-Bone, so there you go. That's kind of lining up equal to what we're lined up kind of identical here in some ways.
We're both in education, and I'm an admin, so my schedule's a little different and goes a little longer. So I think actually this last Tuesday, DC did a solo. But one thing we've done is some of our guests in the past, we've started bringing them in as co-hosts sometimes too.
Yeah, we twist the show some. Yeah.
No, that's a smart idea. That's very smart.
Yeah, and they enjoy it. They get a kick out of doing that. Puts it a little different perspective on their part too. And it's just whatever we can kind of do. I'm kind of like the snake oil salesman. I'm trying to come up with different little just tidbits here and there where I can kind of get a fish hook into somebody. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it blows up my face, and that's okay. I'm used to it blowing up my face, so. That's okay too.
One interview we ended up having.
Go ahead, Steve.
One interview that we ended up having was Dave Faulkner from the Hoodoo Gurus sent me an Instagram message saying he saw our post about the review and wanted to talk about it. At first, I thought it was a spam profile.
Right.
Nope, we were planning on maybe like 30 minutes, and it was like about an hour and a half with Dave Faulkner.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. You never know what you're getting. You never know what you're getting. With some of these interviews.
Maybe we could call Dave Faulkner again and see if he'll do a review episode with us and review the Jesus and Mary chain that just came out.
There you go.
See what he thinks.
Get this. Now that you're on that kind of topic, the funny one for us was this. We interviewed Artemis Pyle from Leonard Skinner, and their people were adamant. He's got a window of 30 minutes. This is when it'll be, and this is when you're on. Okay, we'll dance to that song. So we get him on. We have him over an hour.
Oh yeah.
Because he liked what we were doing. He wanted to get to know us. Oh, I got family in Tennessee. I got this. He just went on and he enjoyed it. So yeah, you never know kind of what you're getting. They may say their management people will say one thing, and then the true person wants to do maybe something different.
Well, and it's funny you'd say that because we've had so many different interviews where, we might have expected about a half hour, and I'm not going to give any names out, but that artist is just not all that interesting. And so we're we're begging for a half hour, we're pushing it. And then you have some, I could definitely give names on those because they were just phenomenal, where it's, like Dave Faulkner, it's just headed towards an hour and the time just flew by.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And that's the thing we found out with the guests we have on. Man, it seems like because we try to shoot for around 30 to 40 minutes tops because we want to honor everybody's time. Before you know it, we're in 45 minutes to an hour. The conversation just flows.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's the best. There's been many interviews after we're done doing the actual interview, we're talking either afterwards and it goes on for another 30 minutes, whether we're what albums they've reviewed. Well, we interviewed a couple guys from the Connells about 2 years ago. While we're waiting for one of them to come on, we weren't recording, we were just talking. Then the singer comes on, starts telling us about all these like stories of, we're located in Salt Lake, tells us about all these stories in Salt Lake, how he almost got arrested going to his own venue to perform. And we wish we were recording at that time because it was so
it's good stuff. Yeah.
It was so funny. Yeah, he went out to get some food before the show and he tried to get back in and almost got arrested. I'm the singer.
I'm the main person tonight. Yeah, what are y'all doing? Yeah. Oh wow, what a story. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, we've gotten some stuff like that, where they just, at first they're like, okay, they're very to the point and okay, well, these guys, and we are not going to hit below the belt with people. We don't care about your private life. We just want to enjoy and talk music with you.
Absolutely.
And it takes them just a few minutes to figure that out, and they're in the flow with us and enjoy it, I think, for the most part.
Steve, do you remember who it was that we talked to that we mentioned something that they were so impressed that we knew about? You remember who that was?
A few.
Well, yeah, there's one in particular that I just cannot think of who that was. They were like shocked that we were talking about that, and it really helped to build up that conversation and
open the doors
between us. Right.
Oh yeah. Same thing for us as well. Yeah, because we'll have something we mention. Yeah, go ahead, DH.
One of the things I was going to ask DC, and the reason I'm going to ask this is, our high budget show and our post conferences. I want to know, just to explain that our post conferences are Friday morning at the Waffle House.
Right. We don't have a big fancy conference room or anything. That's where we do our post shows.
I was kind of wondering how you guys do the post and break it down because, Waffle House seems to work.
That's our production meetings, if you would. I don't even know if we could call it a production meeting for what we have, but it sounds good. It sounds good.
Our production meetings consist of Steve and I texting to each other and going to a concert every couple of weeks.
Right. I'm with you.
See, our Waffle House works, you see.
Well, the Waffle House people may be tired of our production meetings.
We need to look into the Waffle House, Steve.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's where all these wonderful ideas come about, from the Waffle House. They ought to be giving us some money back.
Well, really, they need to advertise.
Yeah, exactly. They need to. Yeah, I need to wear the hat and get all that stuff going.
I was going to say, if you say Waffle House one more time, they're going to charge us a roll.
Probably. Yeah, we would be in trouble. You're right. Yeah, I better watch what I'm doing.
That eating establishment.
Right. That's open 24/7. Yeah, there you go. Oh, wow. You're right. Hey, speaking of that, DH, take off on our question that we love to give all our guests. That's a perfect time to do it.
This is the most important question of the night, and the reason being...
They may not think so.
When we do our production meeting on Friday morning, whoever's artist is picked by our guests, the other one has to buy breakfast. So I need a free breakfast this week because, I was born in the USA. I just need that.
Stop that crap.
So and DC always says I try to influence, and I never do because, being born in the USA, I try to be fair about everything. So we're going to give you two artists for you guys to pick from.
Now let me let them know that I was born in a small town, but it wasn't a pink house.
Hey,
since you're going to go that route, that's what we're going to do.
I'm going to let you ask the question. I'm going to go over here and dance in the dark while you're asking. So you
right.
Ask it. I'm going to dance in the dark.
Right. So they figured it out by now. So it is a comparison between either Bruce Springsteen or John Cougar Mellencamp, John Mellencamp, whatever he's going by this week.
Right. Now, Steve, do you want to go first?
Right. So there's your choices for the artist this time. Yes.
I'm gonna have to go with Bruce Springsteen.
Yes.
And
I can feel that breakfast.
I do like both. I have a lot of both in my collection, but I too am going to have to go with the boss.
All right, so you get a free cup of coffee, a refill on Friday for you.
You're buying my second refill.
Right. Who is the only one that I've really whipped your butt on? What we change these up, guys. We change them up maybe, I don't know, every 7 or 8 guests. We'll do a different group against each other. We've had some dandies. I beat you on Prince, right? I had Prince in one and wore you out. What was the other one?
Jackson.
Yeah, what was the other one?
You out on Van Halen. You had Motley, didn't you?
I had Motley Crue.
Elvis versus.
I beat you on Elvis. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say those were 80s until you got to Elvis.
Yeah, we like to change. We thought one day we'll just change it up. Change it up a little bit.
So did you say that
I'm going to tell you how that one came about.
Yeah, tell them.
That one came about in a weird way. I was driving on a
Sunday morning
running some errands, XM radio, and I went from Elvis to Margaritaville, and I thought, well, that could be interesting.
So we just put that comparison to each other.
Did you say that you guys have done the same 2 artists with other guests?
Yes.
Or is
the one that y'all answered? Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've never won. I've never won with that one. John Cougar is below the radar, apparently, for everybody. So I'll tell you this: he may have to change his name again. Maybe that'll help it. I don't know, but I've gotten worn out on this one.
John M.
See, I got the name. I got the name he can use.
Go ahead.
John Cougar, DC's buying breakfast for DH.
It might as well be. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it may as well be that as a name now. You're right.
The artist formerly known as John Cougar.
Mellencamp.
Buy breakfast. So.
Right, has to buy breakfast. The artist, yes. Oh wow. Oh wow. Yeah. So
I'll enjoy my coffee on Friday.
Yeah. Well, we're going to officially end this one. We got to come up with it. So on our production meeting, we're going to come up with 2 new artists because I'm done with this question. I've gotten worn out on it. I've been run over. I'm flat.
We'll come up with 2 new artists. Then.
Tiffany and Stacy Q.
There you go. Oh, hey, we have. That's a good idea. We haven't done any female against female, I don't think.
Now look, I'm going to have to say this. I know Susie Q is the cake, so I'll take that.
Right. Yeah. You'll be taking that. Okay, I got you. Oh wow. Guys, let me ask this as well for me. How did the iHeart stuff come about? Because that's some big time stuff where you get to be podcasting on that.
Steve, that is your venue.
The server, where we upload the server that we uses to upload all our podcasts to. Started offering that for one of the, this directory's open up. Do you want to go into that? Sure. So we applied and.
Very good. Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's available, iHeart and all the different podcast formulas. When I'm listening to it, I listen to it on YouTube podcasts. Steve has been able to get it pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
I believe we're on every podcast platform of your choice.
Fantastic. Do you see that your numbers for people watching your stuff, does it matter? Does one kind of outweigh the other one, or are they kind of equal across the numbers?
We're primarily just like as a traditional podcast, just audio.
Okay.
We now upload onto YouTube, but it's just the audio portion with a picture.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, people don't want to.
People would rather hear us than see us.
That may be our problem, DH. I think they just solved our problem.
They really don't want to see me.
Here's our angle that we work with that might you guys but what we do is we tell them, because like we're on Canyon Star TV now, we tell them we're going to put our ugly faces everywhere we can. So when you need scarecrows, you can automatically get one.
Right.
Well,
right.
Here's one thing I want to add in of why we don't do it video or live like this is here. One, I'm considered the word editor at large on the description of the podcast. Steve is the editor of the podcast when it comes to actually editing the sound of the podcast. If we tried to get on live and do this with these album reviews, it would turn into an absolute disaster.
That makes sense.
Because we're making so many mistakes and everything and I didn't bring my glasses and I can't read my own notes, or I mean I wrote the
You're talking about you, DH.
or I wrote my notes a month. I wrote my notes a month ago, and I really read it the night before.
Right.
So yeah, we're going live for our type of format. I mean, this is a blast, but I just don't know that for ours it would work. Steve.
Right.
Yeah, we've gotten to a point where I'm comfortable with the recording audio portion of it. I think we got that getting worked out. I really don't want to tackle video at this point.
And like I say, Steve is an editor extraordinaire. I mean,
it's fantastic. Fantastic
pull
job.
Out a little line and throw it in another place. He can take out. I'm impressed. I am impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we do whatever we do live. We have fun with it. We went from, like, our start was, like I said, we're into year 4. And we started at a folding table and a $5 microphone plugged into his cell phone. And we were on, what was it, Anchor, I think? We started out like on Anchor.
Yes. Anchor.
And we tried to do like just little 30-minute shows. And it was just he and I about topics of the 80s, our favorite 80s rockers, or whatever the topic was for the day.
And we did lists, and every list DC did was wrong. So,
right,
I mean,
that's
like,
true.
Hair metal.
So that's why that bombed. But anyway, so then we had the bright idea, like, okay, let's maybe start trying to find some people to interview. DH, tell them what happened on our very first interview that we record. Well, we didn't. Well, go ahead.
Well. Was it the very first one?
It was it was the very first one.
Yes, we got the interview done, man. We were feeling great. This was amazing. We looked, nobody hit record.
On our very first one. Yeah, it was an actress. It was an actress in what was the movies? It's like a series. Kill Bill. I think it was Kill Bill. Yes. Yeah, she had played in those movies and several other things too, but sweet lady, and was just an 80s guru, so that's why we chose her. And we thought, man, we've made it now, and I didn't hit record, so there you go. So that's my good story.
It's funny you'd say that, because I mean, not that I didn't record. And I've gotten much better at it over time. And Steve, again, is kind of the guru on the technical side. But when I mentioned earlier that I interviewed Dr. Robert of the Blow Monkeys, now Steve couldn't be at that one. And the reason why, it was at 4 a.m, Steve, because Dr. Robert was over in England or Australia or something like that.
Might have been.
Sure.
Yeah. So I had to get up and go down to work, because I lived at work at the time and had to get everything all set up, and it was just it turned out really good, but it was kind of a nightmare because of that time difference.
Yeah. So you don't do any video interviews. Y'all are all audio.
Right.
So, you don't get to see some of these things that we just try to kind of push through and all that.
We do it on Zoom, so we see the video.
We see
the video, but we
only
use the audio.
Gotcha. Right. Okay, so that's how you talk with your guests. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I've got a good one. DH was not able to be in this particular interview. So I pop it on, and it's like pitch black, in the background of the person I'm interviewing, and it was a tribute band. here in Nashville. It was I won't say which tribute band because we've done a bunch of them in this area, but anyway, it was one of the tribute bands, and I'm like, "What are they in the picture?" And all of a sudden, I'm hearing like water, and I'm like, "What the?" That was an interview with a person in a hot tub. Oh. So that takes the cake.
Yeah, it does.
Now we've interviewed get this. We've interviewed a person in a closet. In other words, his office, you could tell, was a closet. So we've interviewed it in a closet, and but that tops it is the interviewing in the hot tub. Hey, beautiful lady.
I went to watch the show.
But there you go. Yeah, tell them.
Give some feedback on it. And I turned it on, and I'm like, I missed this, and she's in a hot tub. What in the world? I don't know what was going on.
And I'm thinking, okay, what's another question I could ask? What's another question I could ask?
I'm like, DC, you had one job, and this is where we're at.
That's funny.
Yeah. So you never, in this video world, you never know what you're going to get with us.
No, the funniest one for me was when we did the Ozzy tribute.
Yeah. That was pretty unique. Unique.
Great guy, great interview going, but all at once you'd see him go over to the side of the camera.
Smoke everywhere. Smoke starts. I'm like, okay.
I honestly thought you were going to say that he went over to the side there and bit a bat's head off. I don't know why.
That wouldn't shock me. We're both high school teachers, so nothing now surprises me anytime I see something. So there you go. Yeah, that would have been good. That would have been entertainment. But you never know what you're gonna get. It's crazy.
Yep.
So, guys, what's one of the most interesting interviews kind of like that you guys have had?
Steve, you want to go first?
Go ahead, T-Bone. I'll follow you up.
Yeah, we haven't. I mean, maybe Steve will come up with something that I'm not coming up with, but I mean, for me, it's just simply been bucket lists. And for me, it was interviewing Nick Kershaw, who I was a huge fan of back in the 80s. And he still puts out material. I think his last album is just brilliant. Yep. And the other one is Ian McNabb from the Icicle Works, who's the same story. He puts out an album like every year. He has 2 coming out this year. One's already out, and the next one is called Fleetwood McNabb. It's a covers album of Fleetwood Mac songs.
Oh, I love it.
And I cannot wait for it. I'm a huge
That's good stuff.
Fan.
Yeah, that's cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same as you, T-Bone. Some bucket lists. Obviously, Johnny Vatos from Oingo Boingo. And I think when I had to re-interview Andy McCluskey for the second time just by myself, that one was pretty nerve-wracking, but he was a fantastic interview.
Yeah. And that's the big plus. Well, that's been the big plus.
And Robin Hitchcock was actually surprisingly really well.
Robin Hitchcock? Oh, my gosh.
That was a great one, too.
Oh, man. Yeah, and that's been the greatest part about it is almost all of them have been so kind. I mean, some are a little bit more talkative than the others, but
that's right.
Most of them are pretty talkative, and they like to talk about, everybody likes to talk about themselves and everything. And so most of them have been very, very talkative and informative and have given us answers that we never would have expected. And I just love that.
So,
that's what I really like. That's why when you interview some of these bands, you're finding out some of the songs they did was just their hits happened by mistake. And a lot like Paul Humphrey said, they had a lot of happy accidents along the way.
That's a good way to put it.
Stories about it.
That's a great way to put that. Yeah.
So you guys both mentioned the bucket list. Now I know coming into this, being on D&D was like number 1 on your bucket list. So we're going to move that off.
Right.
Let me check that off.
Bucket list interview coming up.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they've hit the plateau now. Well, I don't know.
Exactly.
May have hit the wall. I don't know if it's a plateau.
Now we're the one being interviewed, So this is like
there you go. Yeah, reversal here on you. The bucket list thing, it's interesting you mentioned a couple of they would be my favorites if I could ever, and I'm going to keep pushing. I'll keep pushing and bugging them until they give a restraint on me, I guess. But I'd love to get Nick Kershaw. We've heard about 3 or 4 people we've interviewed on here that's interviewed them, and I'm like, damn, man, I'd love to have. I'm trying my best to get Nick Kershaw. Like you said, T-Bone, he was one of my and still is one of my favorite artists. Yeah, I'd love to get an interview with him. Nick, and also Oingo Boingo is a favorite group of mine too. I've tried to reach out with several of them without any kind of effort brought back to me, so I'll keep pushing. But it's interesting you mentioned those two guys. You know, those two.
T-Bone is the member of the Carl Graves. He's the president of the Carl Graves fan club, who's an Oingo Boingo.
Yeah, so let's talk about that here for just 1 second. Now, Steve and I actually saw Oingo Boingo about 3 weeks ago.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's not a cover band, and not a cover band.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Almost all of the original members, except for Danny Elfman.
For Danny, Danny's doing his own deal. Yeah,
right.
Yep.
But they do have a fantastic.
I've tried to talk with Danny.
Yeah, that's
so I know a lot of detail about Oingo Boingo. I promise. I've been trying to do the searching.
And what's funny is that this is maybe like 3 years ago, when Carl Graves, their keyboardist, would come on stage. Steve and I would be like, Carl, we love you, Carl. He just thought it was funny and everything. So a year later, we got shirts made that said the Carl Graves fan club, and the band just thought that was hilarious. So last year we made up about 10 shirts and gave them to everybody on the front row. And
isn't that fantastic?
Brandon, the new lead singer, he took one and he wore it on stage. And so the fan club just keeps growing. And then this year, when they were just here a few weeks ago, we had one for Carl. So he's a
that is classic. That is fantastic stuff. That is good stuff. That is so cool. That's awesome. That is awesome stuff. Yeah. But you know, this guy keeps me grounded. I'm the emotional one, if you haven't figured that out. So I'm up and down on a roller coaster about it. I get mad about it, then I get over it. Because here's what happens in our world. I'll get ill about not hearing from somebody or getting turned down by somebody, and then a few days later, hey, I'll do it. You know, it's one of those that's been out there for a long. That's kind of our pattern that happens with us. It's like out of the blue. Yeah, I can do that date if it's still open.
Steve will know this the second I start talking about it. But at one point, we got Michael Aston of that other version of Gene Loves Jezebel. We were seeing a little show with him, a weird experience. And he just came up and started talking to us. And that's where we got our first ID, our first intro for the podcast. And then Steve will remember this very well, but we started contacting a whole bunch of different artists, not necessarily expecting any sort of, interviews or anything, but we just wanted to see if they could do an ID for the podcast. So we contacted Jeanette Napolitano. Is that how you pronounce it? From Concrete Blonde? Is it Napolitano?
Yeah.
Steve? Concrete. Yeah. So Jeanette Napolitano, I am going to, dig on her by name on this one. And she sent Steve back an email saying, well, I'm not New Wave. I wouldn't do one. So
yeah,
you get a lot of nice people and you get some that just don't make sense.
That's right.
And then sometimes you get replies like 2 years later and you forget that you put in a request.
Exactly.
I'm sitting at home one day and I get a little Facebook message from the bass player of NXS, Gary Beers. Hey mate, you still want that intro? Fantastic.
Well, and it was the same thing with Tom Bailey. I sent him out a request a year before, and then all of a sudden I get this email. Oh, here's that request for you.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I've tried to get in contact with him. You name it, I probably they will find an email from me in their search box somewhere. I promise you. And like I said, you have days where you kind of get bummed about it, and then he puts me back down to level like, dude, look where we've gotten in 3 years with this thing.
And that's the way I'm going to be honest with you. That's the way I approach this. I don't really have a per se bucket list. I guess that's just not my personality. My bucket list is just to keep this show going and enjoy it with the guests we have and make sure everybody enjoys herself. And you know what? If I do that and we do that, I mean, let's face it, we're not making money on this thing. We're having fun with it. So let's just enjoy the ride.
Well, that's how we are too on it. I mean, we have been very lucky, but yeah, we're not making a dime. So, in the financial sense of things. And so, yeah, it's just the fun of doing it.
Right. That's right.
Let's have the fun.
I guess where I get emotional about it sometimes is like, it is a lot of damn work. It just is. I'm not harping on that. I'm not, I enjoy what we do. I love what we do. I just, sometimes you're waiting for the reaping of the reward to come back on you, I guess. In my perspective, sometimes, I guess, is the way I see it. Am I going to send out 50 more emails and not hear a word and then hear one? That kind of, so I got to switch my gear on the negative part of it sometimes, I guess. But,
I don't know if it's necessarily negative. It's just, it can be a little tiring and it can be a little frustrating,
Right.
And then something happens and, boom, you're like on the top of the world.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'll give him a message like I tell you. Yeah. Go ahead, man.
It's like I tell you, DC, the opposite side of that is, dude, we're booked all the way into December now.
Sure.
This is the 1st of June. So, hey, you don't sweat it. You just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, brother.
I told DC, I said, if this thing ever became work, like something that just
we don't need to be doing it.
Probably time to hang it up. Because we're
you're right
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's right. Like I said, he keeps us grounded. Like I said, I'm the one that kind of wears it on the sleeve and he keeps it spotted on and anchored to the ground for us. And that's why we work so well together. But it's kind of cool, like we told the story of how we got started with this stuff. But we had in DH, I forget, I think the first gentleman's name was Steve. That was an agent. Remember when he kind of gave us advice a long time ago? I mean, when we very first started out, we were struggling like, well, what do we do? We're not having many followers and all this stuff. And so I just reached out and the agent, he goes, I've listened to it. Y'all are good. You good at what you're doing. He said, be honest with people. He said, y'all teachers, right? And then I told him the background to us, and it is this deal. We're 23 days apart in age. We grew up on the same street. We went to the same schools, played the same sports teams. Now we teach in the same school. And he said, run with that. He said, that's a great, that's the foundation you need.
Well, and that's what I was just going to use my interviewing skills and ask you all about that, but you just told me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've been best
friends
since we were able to walk.
Yeah, since we could speak, we've been best friends. And we were, and like visually could see each other's homes that we grew up in. Wow. So I was either at his house or he was at my house. His parents or my second parents and vice versa. So that's how it works for us. And that's why he hadn't killed me yet. He probably wants to. But he's, we've been together, 56 years now. So 57 because I'm 23 days older than you. He likes to give me that crap that I'm older, just 23 days. But
I think
anyway,
that's one of the reasons. I I enjoy you guys' podcast so much because I kind of see that same trend of the friendship is there, and you can tell you guys get along and have a good time.
Yeah,
and I think that makes all the difference in the world.
It's huge.
Well, and Steve and I have not known each other that long as you guys, but I mean, we met. What was it, Steve? In the early '90s?
Yeah, mid-'90s.
Mid-'90s, something like that. It was just at my work. Steve would always come in. His dad would always come in, and I would just talk to him, and a friendship began from there. But yeah, Steve and I have, and Steve's you're about 10 years younger than me, Steve, but we have extremely similar tastes, other than he doesn't appreciate the new modern English as well as he should. But yeah, no, we've been friends for many, many years.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge part of the success for this stuff is that, you're not strangling each other. And and like DH said, he said it perfectly. When it becomes work, we don't need to do this because it's fun. It's a release for us. Like I said, he's a boss of mine now. He's one of my administrators. He was in the classroom. I teach environmental science, so I'm a freshman teacher. But we teaching, we're in the same high school, and matter of fact, in the little town we grew up in, the high school that's in our town, in the town that we grew up in. So that's where we're at. So
now,
we didn't attend that school. We're so old, we're ancient that that school wasn't built when we were in high school. That's how small our little town was at the time. We had to go to the city next to us.
Are your students familiar with the podcast? Do they watch it?
Go ahead, DH. You were asked that last time.
Yes, we actually have some. I started, we had an AV, audio video class we started 2 years ago, or actually 3 years ago now. And actually this year, will be the first year the juniors and seniors are at that level. So they've actually asked me to come in and help them, and they're all going to kind of do individual podcasts as kind of a cumulative project for the class. So the instructor has asked if I would come in and kind of help, and they're going to show clippets and stuff and kind of talk about what we do, how we do it, and all of that. So it's really cool that the kids are getting involved.
Well, don't show examples of our work.
Well, and there's there's not enough podcasts out there right now. So.
Right.
See, that's why we wanted to interview you, because y'all's clip is what I'm going to show instead of ours.
Right. Yeah, don't show their that may give them bummed out. Like, what the heck am I taking this course for if we got to do stuff like that? And it turns out looking like that. So yeah, that's the first thing. Tell the instructor not to show any of our stuff for sure.
Sure. But it's really fun.
It is. It is. Yeah, absolutely. Well, gentlemen, tell me as we kind of wrap up some stuff here, what do you got coming up that's on the plate?
Well, Steve, I'll jump in first. We like we mentioned, we have a review episode already in the can, and we think we know where it's going to fit in unless something just all of a sudden happens. And so that is an episode that we're going to be reviewing, the latest from the Jesus and Mary chain, and the 2-year-old album of the Pixies, who have brand new music that was just released. So one a little bit older album and one brand new album. And Steve, what do we have after that?
After that, we've got a schedule. We kind of do occasionally a new artist spotlight, where we spotlight new up and coming bands that fit that new wave 80s sound. It's one that's been playing a lot of festivals. We just caught them earlier this year. So we're going to be interviewing, and they're about to drop a big album, or their first big album out in August. So we're going to be interviewing them. And then we've got, like I said, we've got 2 tentative or fingers crossed interviews. And those are the type, and with those artists, they're going to be, when they say jump, we'll jump and get
understand. I understand.
We don't necessarily want to say who they are, but if they say yes, we will find time to talk to them.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. You'll dance to their music. I get you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've been in that boat, done that. Yeah. Been there, done that.
For 80s artists, they are big. And so, yeah, we've got our fingers crossed.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Good stuff, guys. DH, you got anything?
Guys, if you would, before we get out of here, if you'll share all of your platforms where everybody can find you at. Folks, make sure and check out their podcast. I know you join us every week, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah,
You're going to enjoy their podcast probably a lot more than you enjoy ours.
Right.
Steve, I'll take that.
Yeah, you can just look for New Wave Music Podcast pretty much on anywhere of your podcast platforms of choice. Apple Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're also on social media. Just look for New Wave Music Podcast. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Threads.
And like you mentioned earlier,
to be TikTok.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier on YouTube now also, just the audio part, but yeah, you can listen to episodes on YouTube while you're sitting at work doing nothing else.
Right, and they are fantastic guys. They have interviewed and gone over so many different albums and different music, like they said, and it is very well put together. Shout out, hey, fantastic guys, and all the best to you. And we look forward to maybe catching up with you again sometime out there.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Let's do it for sure.
We'll let you guys hang there. And we'll let you hang there as we wrap it up.
Okay. Yes, and And again, I want to thank Steve and T-Bone for joining us tonight. They do this podcast thing a lot better than we do, so we really appreciate them joining us.
You think?
But hey, after 4 years, we might have. I think we've had some slight improvement. No.
Well, I don't know. This is the guy that forgot to record a part of it just like last time. So no, right. In 4 years, I still hadn't gotten worth of crap.
Hey,
I just get lucky sometimes with it.
Like we always say on our show, we're just sitting down with a bunch of friends having a conversation and a beverage of choice. So
absolutely.
We really appreciate everybody joining in. You've been listening to D&D Dynamite 80s. You can catch us, and I'm going to try to do this from memory because I left all my notes on my desk.
Well, you need your glasses too, which you never put on.
I know. I don't have them, so I couldn't read it even if I had it.
That's my point.
Spotify, Breaker Radio, Radio Republic, Google Podcasts, all of those were out there. We are out there on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of it, D&D Dynamite 80s. Want to give a shout out. We are now on Capital Star TV, so you can see pretty much wherever you can see our ugly faces, you can print a picture and use it for a scarecrow. Yeah. You're welcome, free of charge. Hey, and if you want an autographed picture, just let me know. I've got some old pictures at home. I don't know who's going to be.
Just sign your name to whoever's picture you give them. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, folks, as always, end off before I throw it over to DC to play us out with our sponsors. Remember, it doesn't cost anything extra to be kind, so always be kind to each other, folks. DC?
Amen, brother. Amen. D&D Dynamite 80s would like to thank their sponsors. Jackie's Creations on Facebook, Riley Rhodes Art Designs at RileyRhodes.art on Instagram, Hudson's Flags and More, Nesting Project of Smyrna, Tennessee, PJG Marketing, Totally Cool 80s, and Charlie Bubbles Cares for Kids. You can find all these great folks online. You most certainly can. Speaking of Charlie Bubbles, that is actor next week. Actor Paul Karafotis. You'll know him from Knots Landing, that TV series. You'll know him from a bunch of different movies. Actually dated Demi Moore. How about that? Actually dated Demi Moore back in the day. But you'd know him if you know All the Right Moves. He was one of the main characters with Tom Cruise in that 80s movie, All the Right Moves. So Paul's an awesome guy. Been on, this will be times 2 for him, won't it? Second time around.
Second time.
And yeah, he confirmed it today with me, and he's good. But he's writing children's books. So that's Charlie Bubbles is the character. Charlie is his son. So when his son was growing up, he decided to write some children's books about Charlie, and it's become a big hit. So Charlie Bubbles, and we're part of that organization or /foundation. Charlie Bubbles Cares for Kids. We've donated to that, and we're promoting it here on our show. But what Paul and those guys are doing is the money they reach out and get from that organization, they are buying books for kids that can't afford them. They're giving a book to a kid that can't afford a book. So it's a fabulous foundation that he's got. So he'll be on next week to talk about that stuff and some of his latest projects he's got going on as well. So we look forward to catching up with him. I think he's coming our way too and wants to catch up with us. I think he's going to be in Nashville. So we'll get all that fun stuff talked about too. Maybe we'll get a chance. He wants to meet up with us.
We'll let you buy both our Waffle House that week.
All right. We'll see how that goes. You better help fund that with the company. The D&D Dynamite company. Send that bill to the company. Yeah. That's how I'll do that. Negative. That's how much we make for this.
Pay all the bills.
Right.
Since you pay all the bills, I'll forward it to you.
Oh, wow. Well, once again, Steve and T-Bone from the New Waves Music Podcast. Check out all their great stuff on all the different platforms. And gentlemen, we appreciate your time and all the best to you.
Well, we thank you and keep up the good work, you guys.
All right. As DC always kind of tells you guys, keep playing those 80s. We'll see you next week. Paul Karafotis.
Next week, folks. folks. I'll be back in studio, hopefully.
I hope so. Yes.